This is For the Governed, a podcast series brought to you by Athalonz. Here are your hosts, Tim Markison and Ron Cates.
Welcome to another edition of the Athalonz podcast. I'm Ron Cates. With me, as always, is Tim Markison, the CEO and founder of Athalonz. Today, Tim is going to talk about his story of hope and inspiration. And believe me, listeners and watchers, it is incredibly inspiring. Tim Markison.
Thank you. As I've mentioned before, I was raped from the time I was 5 till I was about 13 by a family member and also a school administrator. So, the two supposedly safest places for children at home and at school were the two most dangerous places for me. In addition to the sexual abuse, I was also beaten, I was choked, I was locked in a freezer as punishment, and I was constantly berated. And I was continually told I was worthless. All of those messages really sunk in at a subconscious level. But as my defense mechanisms for that and what got me through all of these negative experiences was I disassociated and then forgot. So as an incident was happening, I would disassociate. So it was as if it was happening to somebody else's body. And then as soon as the incident was over, I'd forget. But I also forgot majority of my childhood. It's as if I didn't exist until I was about 16 years old. I've got little fragments here and there. And, most of the fragments revolve around baseball. Baseball really was my saving grace. I was a really good player. I was always the best player for my age. But, even there, when my father got involved with coaching, really tainted baseball for me. No matter how well I played, it was never good enough for him. So it really set me up for not only feeling worthless, but in order to have any kind of value, I had to perform at superhuman levels. So,
Tim, perfection's not possible in baseball.
No. I mean, people that make $25 million a year make 7 outs out of 10 at bats, and they make all kinds of money. So, the imperfection of the human body in sports is what makes it so interesting. Is it's not machines performing a function. It's human beings, and we have limitations of what we're capable of doing. So you're right. In any sport, there's no such thing as perfection. We do the best we can.
You would play a great game, just a great performance, but the feedback you'd get would be, what about these 7 things that you didn't do right?
I was a decent hitter, but I was a really good pitcher. So I could throw a one-hitter, and I did that numerous times. And then all I'd hear about for days was, how could I give up that out? Why'd you use that pitch? Why'd you throw that pitch? Not like, holy crap, what a great game. So it just added to the worthlessness, the loneliness, the emptiness of everything else that was going on in my childhood. But because I was good at baseball, that's what got me into college, and that really was the beginning of my recovery.
I want to point out, only because you told me, but there was a point where you were not a great student because you were focused on baseball so much. So getting an education in college at one point in your life wasn't of prime value. You just wanted to play baseball there. Yeah.
I was a B-, C+ student all through grade school, high school. I didn't care. I didn't study. If I couldn't get the homework done in class or in study hall, I didn't do it. I never studied for a test. I took them. And then after the summer that I graduated high school, I had a tryout with the White Sox. And that tryout went very well, but the scout I was working with said I was much better off going to college than into the minor leagues. At the time I was 17 and looked like I was 14. So that instant in my life was what inspired me to go to college. Had that not occurred, I don't know where I'd be today, but I know I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. So that got me to go to college. But even when I started college, all of those self-images that my abusive childhood created, that I was ugly, stupid, worthless, couldn't do anything right, that was ingrained in me. I was fearful of everything, had panic attacks. I felt inferior to pretty much everyone. And I don't know exactly, I still haven't figured this out, and it's a thing I keep thinking about a lot, but something inside me clicked when I started college, because all of a sudden it mattered to me. And I was taking engineering classes. I have a electrical engineering degree now. So I was doing pre-engineering, so calculus and physics and chemistry and some pretty heavy classes. And all of a sudden I became a straight A student. And in many of the classes, I was getting the highest grade in the class. I still don't know what triggered inside me to excel in school, but I'm glad whatever it was, it did.
Did that change your opinion of yourself?
No. I still thought I was a worthless, stupid piece of crap that couldn't do anything right. It's just I was working hard, so that must be why, and anybody could do what I was doing. And then with respect to my child abuse issues, I had, like I said, I had forgotten it. And then the memories started to come back when my eldest daughter, Amy, reached 5, which was the age when the abuse started to happen to me. And I started to remember what was happening to me. And it was scary. I was having little flashbacks here and there, and it's like, wow, that's really creepy. What movie was that from? Was kind of my first thought. And then, I had one flashback overnight where I just woke up in terror. I was being choked. I couldn't breathe. There was somebody in my face, very menacing. And, for the next 30 days, I couldn't close my eyes. Every time I closed my eyes, that panic attack of somebody choking me and being in my face and threatening my life was there. So that really escalated my need for therapy and getting help.
We talked about this before in previous podcasts, but definitely things changed at some point. You decided it became so severe, you got professional help.
Right.
You took that very seriously, worked very, very hard, and still continue to work hard to deal with all these issues.
Yeah.
But at some point, you started to realize that you weren't what these abusers told you were.
Right.
I think there was just too much evidence to the contrary.
My recovery kind of went in phases. It was first just starting to have these memories and accepting that, what these memories were representing were real events that happened to me, and how my childhood shaped my negative self-image, and where all those negative messages came from. Because they're just in my head as a continual loop, and then the next phase is to start to put those into proper perspective, and replacing them with more positive messages. And it's not like, oh, I'm just going to erase this "I'm a piece of shit" message and go "I'm a great guy" message. It was starting to diminish the volume of "I'm a piece of shit" message and starting to increase the volume of, I'm an okay guy. And it's what's interesting even today is there'll be an incident that just kind of tweaks that insecurity in me that, I can't do things right. And that'll reverberate that message a little bit louder of, maybe I am a piece of shit. But now I can experience that and go, I know that's garbage. I know I'm a decent human being. I've accomplished quite a bit in my life. And, and that's really where I want the rest of our chat to go here, is to really focus on, where I started. We've talked about that a lot, and we've already talked about here, but where I'm at today and where I can still
from my
go.
Perspective, now we're talking about reality, because your accomplishments are so numerous and they're so concrete, they're so undeniable. We've had this discussion a lot of times, but a few years ago, I wanted to write down and put out there that you're one of the country's most accomplished patent attorneys. And you were like, no, I can't say that. How do I know? But now, faced with facts, you are unquestionably one of the country's leading patent attorneys, period. There's no argument. There's no hyperbole to it. And now you've actually gotten to where you can say that sometimes.
Right. Yeah, I can embrace that I'm one of the top patent attorneys in the country. I've accomplished things that others haven't. And on that front, I'm probably the only person in the country that's an inventor on over 300 patents and have written over 3,000 patent applications. I've generated billions of dollars of value by patenting my clients' technology for them. And in that process, I've developed a new approach to patenting, which is really starting to shift how high-tech companies and venture capitalists approach investment into high-tech companies, and how valuable a well-crafted patent portfolio is. So
given all those facts, you've actually come to agree that you're a pretty good patent attorney.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. So
it's taken some work,
It's taken a lot of work.
A lot of evidence.
Yeah. Yeah.
In your face.
And then, couple my upbringing with the fact that, I was raised Catholic. So anytime you say anything positive against yourself, about yourself, that's your ego talking, and that's sinful. So to say anything positive about myself, well, first of all, I never would believe it because of my self-image. And then even if I thought it was kind of true, well, then, the religious side, the religious teaching is, well, that's just ego, and that's bad.
So I have a different viewpoint. As you know, I'm a tennis player. And like most tennis players, if I hit a bad shot, I'm like, oh, my gosh, that was terrible. But when I hit a really good shot, I'm like, yeah, look at that. That was amazing. Maybe I'm the odd one, but I like this. Well, what fun is accomplishing something if you don't get to celebrate it?
Yeah. So, that's one of the things I'm working on in therapy right now is enjoying the moments of success where things go well. It's like, wow, I just did that. That's really, really cool. That's quite an accomplishment, and not out of a place of ego or anything like that, or wow, look at me, aren't I great? It's like, wow, I did that. That I worked my tail off, and positive results happened, and that is really cool, and that's something to be proud of.
So even with the incredibly destructive childhood that you had, you've managed to become incredibly successul. Today, what would you say you have come to know about yourself? So
that's a big question.
And I know it's tough for you to answer this objectively because you want to be real. Part of it's humble, part of it's disbelief. But I think by any measure, you've become a pretty amazing person. So what do you think about yourself now?
I know I'm smart. I've demonstrated that time and time again. And there's things I can figure out that, especially in the patent world, that many can't. I've come to believe that I'm a good person. That I have value to contribute to society, that I am worthwhile, and I'm a very compassionate and giving person, and I'm a very successful father and husband. I've been married to my wife for 41 years. We got married at 18. We had some trials and tribulations along the way, which we've talked about in some other podcasts. But my daughters, I have 2 daughters, a granddaughter and a son-in-law, and we're all very, very close. My one daughter, Patty, she's a patent attorney as well, and we work together.
Would it be fair to say at this point, can you say yes to this? Have you accomplished a lot in your life?
I have. Okay. And I also believe I still have a lot more to accomplish, and I believe that I will.
So you mentioned a lot of things about the personal side, but again, in objective accomplishments, what about the professional side? This terrible student who really wasn't one went to college.
So yeah, as I mentioned, I got a degree in electrical engineering from Illinois Institute of Technology. I was
Weren't you working through that too, full time?
Yeah, I was working about 30 hours a week as a draftsman and then technician while I was carrying 4 or 5 engineering classes. And for most of my college, I was married. And then in my last semester of engineering school, our first daughter, Amy, was born. So there was a lot of other responsibilities I had just besides school. And then, then a few years later, went to law school. And I was working full time, and now we had 2 kids. So that was also a lot of effort. But I was successful in doing that as well.
You have a successful law practice.
Yes. Yep. So I've been.
What's the name of that, so people will know?
It's Garlick and Markison. So we are a patent boutique firm. Bruce Garlick. We've been partners now for 21 years, and we've accomplished as a firm a lot of incredible things. And like I mentioned earlier, this new methodology for patent protecting technology for high tech companies that really is starting to shift the way business works, and that's pretty exciting to be the spearhead for that.
And no small thing. You also invented, founded, and are the CEO of Athalonz.
Yes. Yep. So I've been doing Athalonz now for 10 years. Our shoe is really disrupting the golf industry. It's not going as fast as any of us would like, but it's rooted in physics. So we've shifted the way ground reaction force traverses through the shoe, so that the golfer has a more stable base and more energy is going into the body, so they can have a more fluid and powerful swing and more consistent swing.
I understand what you're saying, that those challenges molded this person today, but oh my gosh, wouldn't it have been a lot easier if it had been different?
Yeah, it's really hard to even envision how it might have been different. But if our messaging about stopping abuse and abusers stop abusing, so less children are having to go through what I went through, imagine what they could accomplish in life sooner than what I've accomplished. So I think had I have had a less traumatic childhood, I think what I'm experiencing now professionally may have happened 15 years ago. So I could have done more in my professional career and personal life than I'm able to do now, that I'm doing now, just because of how long it took me to get this level of confidence in what I do.
So can we agree that it's possible to be incredibly successful even with a very poor start in life?
Yes. And I think, why I share this, why it's so important to me to talk about what happened is, I want my life to be an example of what's possible. And if I can do it, so can so many others. It wasn't easy, but the rewards are so worth it. I wouldn't, I would prefer not to have been abused, but I wouldn't change a thing in my adult life, because it's all led me to this point, and I really enjoy my life.